Creating the response form and reviewer materials for the Content Validity Protocol. Please note, this video is for UNC Charlotte faculty in the College of Education developing a response form as part of the Content Validity Protocol. The response form is what expert reviewers will give feedback on about your rubrics. A separate video of directions for reviewers is available on our College of Education website. Please do not share this current video you are now watching with reviewers. Parts of the protocol include the following: completing the initial review of rubrics, selecting the panel of experts, creating the materials for reviewers, including the response form and the assessment packet, collecting the information, and finally, submitting the data to the College of Education Assessment Office. The first step is completing the initial review of your internally developed rubrics. We won't discuss this in detail here. There have been several workshops provided for faculty for this. Rubric review has been ongoing since last fall. Rubrics must meet minimal CAPE guidelines. We want to be sure we complete this step before sending the rubric to the expert panel. We don't want to find out after the fact that the rubric needs to be revised to meet CAPE standards and then have to go through this protocol a second time. A checklist for this is on the COED assessment website under the Content Protocol link. Recommended dates to have rubric changes made is February 15th, 2016. Send your rubrics to Laura Hart for a quick review before you proceed to the next step if you're unsure that your rubric meets CAPE standards. The next step in this process, once the rubrics have been reviewed and meet CAPE minimal standards, is to select a panel of experts. For establishing content validity, we are opting to go with an expert panel of review. This is accepted by CAPE. The first step is to identify a panel of experts and the credentials for their selection. The review panel should include a mixture of IHE faculty, in other words, content experts, and B12 school or community practitioners, lay experts. Minimal credentials for each expert must be established by consensus from program faculty, and the credentials should bear up to reasonable external scrutiny. In other words, professionals from the field would agree that this individual has the expertise to review these materials and provide a credible professional judgment. Go ahead and invite these individuals to participate and let them know they will be receiving additional information in the near future. At least 3 content experts from the program or department in the College of Education at UNC Charlotte should be invited to be part of the panel. At least 1 external content expert from outside the program or the department should be included as well. This person could be a UNC Charlotte faculty member or could be from another institution of higher education, as long as the requisite content expertise is established. And at least 3 practitioner experts from the field should be included. The total number of experts is at least 7. Although programs may opt for more experts on their panel if they wish. Creating the response form. For each internally developed assessment and rubric, there should be an accompanying response form that panel members are asked to use to rate items that appear on that rubric. Remember, these are the rubrics that we use for SACs, SLO reports, CAPE, any officially reported rubric. This does not include rubrics that individual faculty members may use in their classroom work, only officially reported rubrics. The response form is what the expert panel records their rating on. It can be hard copy or electronic. It could also be part of a survey share website, whatever is easiest for you to collect the information. Multiple rubrics can be reviewed by the same panel of reviewers, provided they have credentials. So you can potentially collapse all the items from all the rubrics into a single review form, provided that the reviewers are qualified to review all the items. Again, it can be hard copies here, electronic versions, you can use a survey tool, online, it's entirely your preference. Let's look at an example. This is a page from our STAR rubric. You can see that the key construct here that we are trying to assess is content knowledge. You can see the definition of content knowledge is also included here. This is unusual. Most of the rubrics in our college do not currently have an operational definition included on the rubric, so there may be some work to do in creating the definition. But this is important because the reviewers need to understand how you are defining the key construct. There are a lot of possible ways to define content knowledge, but we've got a clear idea here of how it's being defined for this purpose. Now you can see here that we have the entire rubric, and we will share this with reviewers for informational purposes. But for the purpose of the response form, the only part of the rubric that we need is the key construct, the definition, and the item. Or in this case, the term element is used. It may have different names on different rubrics, but we're talking about the part of the rubric that defines the key construct. We are only focusing on validity here. Does the rubric measure what we claim it is supposed to measure? That means looking at the key construct and the items to rate. We are not asking reviewers to do anything with the indicators. We will examine the indicators for accuracy and common understanding during the inter-rater reliability phase. For now, all we're looking at is content validity. So we take our key construct, our operational definition, and our items to rate, and we create a response form. Now this can be electronic or you can make a hard copy, as we've mentioned before. For each item on the rubric, you're going to ask the expert to rate it in terms of how representative the item is of the key construct, how important the item is in measuring that key construct, and how clear the item is. Each item is rated on a scale from 1 to 4. The first thing to assess will be representativeness. Using a scale from 1 to 4, reviewers will rate the representativeness of each item in measuring the overarching construct. 1 means the item is not representative, 2 means it needs major revisions to be representative, 3, the item needs minor revisions, and 4, the item is representative. Next, using a scale from 1 to 4, reviewers will rate the importance of each item in measuring the overarching construct. 1, the item is not necessary to measure. 2, the item provides some information but is not essential to measure the construct. 3, the item is useful but not essential to measure the construct. 4, the item is essential in measuring the construct. Finally, reviewers will rate the clarity of each item. The item is not clear. 2, the item needs some major revisions to be clear. 3, the item needs some minor revisions. 4, the item is clear. We've created a brief video for reviewers to watch to explain all this. It's 7 minutes, 19 seconds, it's very brief, and we ask that you include directions to viewing that video in the information you send to reviewers. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Following the directions as explained here, reviewers will go through and rate each of the items on the rubric as to how well those items measure the identified key construct. Remember, one construct may have multiple items to measure it, or it may only have one item. Part of the reviewer feedback should include open-ended responses. Are there enough items to measure the construct? Are there too many items? What else would the reviewer like to share with us about measuring this item? We ask them to please give their feedback in the open-ended responses that should be provided on the response form. As an example of what the final response form might look like electronically, we have created this example in SurveyShare. Note that we've included the reviewer's name and current position, and then the items to rate. You can see we ask them to rate the representativeness of each item in measuring the concept, the importance of each item, and the clarity of each item. And we've also included the operational definition as part of their reference as well. At the end are open-ended items asking the reviewers to provide any additional information about the items measuring this construct. Please note, we are only asking them to review the items from the rubric. They are not reviewing the rubric indicators. We're only looking at how well these items from our original rubric measure the key construct as it is defined for your program or your rubric. Now that the response form is created, we can send the assessment packet to reviewers and ask them to begin. These materials again may be hard copies or more likely electronic versions of these documents. These documents should include 1. A letter of purpose explaining why they were selected for this work. This may be in the body of an email or it may be a separate document. And a draft version is available for faculty to use and fill in as needed on the College of Education Assessment website, again under the Content Protocol tab. A copy of the assessment instructions for the assessment that are provided to candidates so the reviewers can understand the assignment that the candidates are asked to complete. A copy of the entire rubric that's used to evaluate the assessment, even though the reviewers are only looking at and completing the response form. They are not evaluating all the pieces of the rubric, remember, just the key constructs and the items, but we are including a copy of the rubric for their informational purposes. And then finally, a copy of the response form aligned with the assessment/rubric for each panel member to rate the item. While the first 3 items are primarily informative, the last item, the response form that you've already created, is where they will record their responses. Once you've got all the response forms and all the materials created, you can initiate the study by sending the information to the expert panel participants. Make sure they have a deadline as to when the materials should be sent back to you. Once the response data has been collected, submit the compiled results to the College of Education Assessment Office. Please do not submit individual results. Please compile the results into a summary chart or document. Copies of all forms and/or Excel files of submitted scores, if you submit them electronically or collected them electronically, should be submitted in the designated file on the S drive. This is a new file and it's accessible by program directors, but if you need access, please contact Ashley Flatley in the College of Education Assessment Office. Content validity results are due back by May 15th, 2016. There is a specific format to adding your files. To see this and the file path, please go to the College of Education Assessment website and look under the Content Validity Protocol tab on the left. Once the content validity results have been submitted, the College of Education Assessment Office will generate a Content Validity Index, or CVI. The CVI is calculated by reviewing the number of experts who rated the item as a 3 or 4 and dividing that number by the total number of experts. A CVI score of 0.80 or higher is considered acceptable. If a rubric's score is not 0.80 or higher, the rubric will need to be revised based on the feedback by reviewers. Final changes based on the CVI results will be made for the expert panel review. If we've done our work well, hopefully these are small changes or even none at all, but some adjustments will probably need to be made on some rubrics. The final result is a valid rubric that we can document our process. Inter-rater reliability then becomes the next step. If you have questions or you need specific information, please visit the College of Education COED assessment website at edassessment.uncc.edu and go to the left and click on the Content Validity Protocol tab. We also have provided a flow chart for visual learners to go through the process of the Content Validity Protocol.